For over 200 years, one rule had never changed. Humans were not allowed. Not in mixed-species combat training. Not in elite simulations. Not anywhere near alien cadets. The rule was old. Older than most commanders. Older than many wars. And because of that, no one questioned it anymore. Until Commander Irex Val did. The chamber was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that pressed against the mind. Rows of alien officers stood along the walls, their uniforms sharp, their expressions careful. At the center of the room stood Irex Val, tall and calm, his hands clasped behind his back. Across from him sat the High Marshal, a massive reptilian being whose scales reflected the white light above like polished stone. His eyes never blinked. You are asking for permission that has not been granted in 2 centuries, the High Marshal said slowly. Irex did not look away. Yes, sir. A small ripple of movement passed through the officers. Some shifted there. Wait. Others stiffened. A few exchanged quick looks filled with warning. The High Marshal leaned forward slightly. Humans are excluded for a reason. Irex nodded. So were 12 other species at one time. That landed harder than a shout. Irex turned and activated the holodisplay behind him. Images appeared in the air. A winged species standing in perfect formation. A horned brute calmly leading a tactical drill. A sharp-eyed reptilian female solving a battlefield puzzle faster than her peers. All of these species were once called unstable, Irex said. Undisciplined, unfit, dangerous. The High Marshal watched in silence. They were trained. Irex continued. Correctly, fairly, with expectations instead of fear. Irex paused, then said the word that made the air change. Humans. Some officers hissed. Others muttered. Humans are chaotic, one officer snapped. They ignore hierarchy, said another. They corrupt discipline, a third added. Irex did not argue. He simply waited. The High Marshal finally spoke. Humans do not fail training. Commander Ix frowned slightly. Then what is the problem? They succeed, the High Marshal said. In the wrong ways. That answer made no sense. And that was exactly why Irex leaned forward. Sir, with respect, Irex said. Voice steady. That sounds like fear, not logic. The High Marshal's tail tapped once against the floor. Careful. Irex inhaled slowly. This was the moment. Where careers ended. Or history changed. I am requesting a limited trial, Irex said. 6 human cadets. Mixed training. Full observation. Full control. The silence returned, heavier now. The High Marshal rose to his full height. He was enormous up close. Old scars crossed his scales, reminders of battles long finished. You believe you can control humans, he said. I believe I can train soldiers. Irex replied. The High Marshal studied him for a long moment. Then, to everyone's shock, he laughed once. Short. Dry. Very well, he said. You may have your experiment. Irex's chest tightened with relief. But understand this, the High Marshal added, his voice cold again. I am not approving this, because I believe you are right. The chamber leaned in. I am approving it because the galaxy has forgotten why the rule exists. A data slate slid across the table toward Irex's 6 humans. No more. If anything goes wrong, it ends. Immediately, Irex bowed. Understood, sir. As he turned to leave, the High Marshal spoke one last time. Keep them separate, Irex paused. Separate, sir? Separate, sir. From the others, the High Marshal said. From influence. Irex nodded, though he did not understand. 2 weeks later, the human transports arrived. Alien cadets gathered behind barriers, watching in silence as the ship descended. There were no weapons mounted, no threatening designs. Just a simple grey hull. The ramp lowered. 6 humans stepped out. They did not march. They looked around. One smiled. Another stretched. Another stretched. Another stretched. Another stretched. There were no spetched. No threatening. No threatening. No threatening. A third waved at someone watching. They looked relaxed. Too relaxed, an alien cadet whispered. That's it. Those are the dangerous ones. Commander Erix felt a spark of pride. They don't look chaotic, he thought. That was his second mistake. Because none of the aliens noticed what mattered most. The humans were already watching everyone else learning and smiling like they had just walked into a game they fully intended to win. The first week went perfectly. To perfectly. Commander Erax Val stood on the observation deck, arms folded behind his back, watching the training field below. 6 human cadets moved through the obstacle course with clean, controlled speed. No shouting. No chaos. No mistakes. They followed orders. They followed timing. They followed formation. That alone confused the instructors. Humans were supposed to be loud, emotional, reckless. Everyone knew that. At least, everyone believed it. Yet the humans ran in sync. With alien cadets twice their size, when one slipped, another caught them. When one fell behind, the group slowed without being told. No rule breaking, no attitude, no problems. Erix felt the quiet satisfaction settle in his chest. I told you. He thought at the tactical hall, humans performed simulations with sharp focus. They studied maps, fast, asked short questions, and adapted quickly when the scenario changed. One human cadet, a tall male called Harris, reorganized a failing squad in under 30 seconds. He did not shout. He did not argue. He simply spoke. And the aliens listened. That was the first strange thing at the firing range. Another human, Maya, adjusted her grip once and hit the center target 5 times in a row. The instructor blinked in disbelief. Most alien species struggled with recoil or reaction delay. Humans adjusted instinctively. By day 3, performance reports showed something alarming. Human cadets were not just meeting standards, they were raising them. Alien cadets began copying human techniques. Their posture changed. Their pacing improved. Even their breathing adjusted during stress drills. No one ordered this, it just happened, Commander. Irex ignored the small unease forming in his mind. This is how training is supposed to work, he told himself. In the mess hall, humans ate with everyone else. They shared stories, joked lightly, asked questions about alien cultures. They listened more than they spoke. That was the second strange thing. Alien cadets began sitting near them on purpose. At night, voices echoed softly through the barracks. Laughter. Friendly arguments. Friendly competition. One alien cadet challenged a human to an Prussia contest. The human lost and smiled. Then challenged him again the next day. The mood on the base changed, not worse. Different. Instructors noticed discipline loosening, just a little. Not enough to punish. Not enough to write reports, but enough to feel. Formation lines bent slightly. Cadets spoke more freely. Squad leaders allowed flexibility. Morale rose. Structure softened. Commander Irex dismissed the warnings in his mind. "This is progress," he said. On day 6, the High Marshal's words returned to him without warning. Humans don't fail training. They succeed in the wrong ways. Irex shook the thought away. That same evening, an alien squad failed a simulation they had passed 3 times before. Not because they were slow, because they tried something new, something creative, something risky. They lost by seconds. When questioned, the squad leader hesitated, then said something that made the instructor pause. "We thought we could improvise." That word did not belong there. Improvisation was discouraged. Controlled. Dangerous in mixed forces. The instructor wrote nothing down. The next morning, 2 alien cadets arrived late to formation. They were never late. When asked why, they looked embarrassed. "We were talking," one said, talking, instead of sleeping. Commander Irex reviewed the reports that night. Performance, excellent. Discipline, acceptable. Behavior, unusual. He stood by the window of his office, watching the training grounds under artificial nightlight. The humans walked below, calm and relaxed, as if this place already belonged to them. They were not breaking rules, they were bending gravity, and gravity, once bent, never returned to its old shape. An alert suddenly flashed on Irex's console. Unauthorized activity, aerial zones. Heart tightened. Flying species were not scheduled to fly at night. Irex rushed to the balcony above the base. Several winged cadets were in the air. They were not flying in formation. They were looping, diving, laughing. One almost collided with another, and barely corrected in time. Irex's breath caught. "This is not training," he whispered. A Corvian cadet suddenly lost altitude and slammed into the ground below, feathers scattering as he rolled and stopped near the medical bay. Instructors ran. Irex ran faster. The cadet sat up, blinking slowly, beak open, eyes unfocused. "Commander," the cadet said happily, "that was amazing." Irex froze. The cadet laughed. "I feel light." Irex felt cold, very cold, because now he understood. Nothing had gone wrong yet, but something had already spread, and it was only the beginning. Commander Irex Val stood over the injured Corvian cadet as medical drones worked quickly around them. Feathers were bent, one wing shaking slightly as the sedative took effect. The cadet was still smiling. That smile terrified Irex. What happened? Irex demanded. The cadet blinked slowly. "We were just trying something new." Irex straightened and turned toward the instructors. Their faces showed confusion, not fear. That worried him even more. Why were they flying? Irex asked. Silence followed. Then one instructor spoke carefully. "They said the humans suggested it would help them clear their heads." Irex felt his chest tightened, or suggested the word echoed inside his mind. The humans had not ordered anyone to fly. They had not forced anyone. They had not broken rules. They had only suggested. The injured cadet was taken away. The night flights were banned immediately. Reports were written. New restrictions were added. On paper, the situation was handled. In reality, the base had already changed. The next morning, training resumed. Humans lined up with the rest of the cadets, calm as ever. No guilt, no defiance. No sign they even knew something had gone wrong. Irex watched them closely. They followed orders perfectly. That was the problem. In the gymnasium, alien cadets began pushing themselves harder than before. Not because they were told to, because they wanted to. 1. Heavy-bodied. Species lifted more weight than medically advised. When an instructor tried to stop him, the cadet said something that made the room go quiet. "I saw a human do it." That sentence spread fast. At the sparring rings, fights lasted longer. Cadets refused to quit, even when exhausted. Humans encouraged. Them clapping, cheering, offering advice. No commands, just belief. Instructors intervened more often now. Injuries increased. Minor ones at first, bruises, strains, stress fractures. Commander Erex updated protocols again. Still, nothing was technically wrong. No alcohol. No illegal activity. No disobedience. Just momentum. During a tactical simulation on day 10, something finally snapped. The scenario was simple. Hold position. Defend. Wait for extraction. Halfway through, a human cadet noticed a flaw in the enemy pattern. He spoke quietly to his team. No one heard him, except the aliens standing nearby. Within minutes, squads shifted positions without orders. Command structure dissolved. The battlefield turned fluid. The humans moved fast, pulling others with them. Flanks collapsed. Enemy units were surrounded, neutralized, overwhelmed. The simulation ended early. Not because it failed, because command lost control. Observers stared at the tactical feed in silence. No doctrine matched what they had just seen. Commander Erex felt a strange mix of awe and fear. "This is effective," one officer said quietly. "Yes," another replied. "But it's not obedient." That word hung in the air. After the simulation, alien cadets gathered around the humans asking questions. How did they see openings so fast? How did they trust each other without orders? A human shrugged. "We just tried." Tried. That word was dangerous. That night, Irex sat alone in his office, staring at the original permission order on his console. 6 humans. Limited trial. He had followed the rules, but the rules were no longer in control. A knock came at his door. "Enter," Arex said. An instructor stepped inside, visibly tense. "Sir," the instructor said, "medical reports are coming in." Arex looked up sharply. "Injuries?" "Yes, sir. Multiple. Mostly from voluntary training, after hours." "After hours," Erex repeated. "Yes, mixed species groups." Irex stood slowly. "How long has this been happening?" The instructor hesitated. "Several nights." Irex's stomach dropped. "Why wasn't I informed?" "They weren't breaking rules," the instructor said. "They were. Training together?" Training.together.irex dismissed the instructor and walked to the balcony once more. Below, under low lights, small groups moved quietly across the training fields. Running, practicing, pushing humans. Among them, smiling, encouraging. Leading without. "Rangthi," High Marshal's voice echoed again in Erix's mind. "They don't fail." They spread. Commander Erex finally understood. This was not disobedience. This was transformation. And once a mind was transformed, there was no command strong enough to pull it back. His console chimed. Priority message. High Marshal Erex stared at it for a long moment before opening it. The message was short. End the trial. Now, Erex exhaled slowly. Outside, the cadets kept training. They had no idea what was coming. And Irix feared it was already too late. The order came to late. Commander Irix Val stood in the command tower, staring at the High Marshal's message. End the trial. Now. The words felt heavy, final, and frightening in a way he had not expected. He should have felt relief. Instead, he felt dread. Below him, the training grounds were alive. Mixed squads moved across the field in tight clusters. Humans ran beside alien cadets, calling out short phrases, hand signals, quiet encouragement. No shouting, no panic, no official command structure. Irix opened a channel to base command. All units, he said firmly. This is Commander A. All training exercises are suspended. Return to barracks immediately. For a moment, nothing happened. Then movement slowed. Some squads stopped. Others hesitated. And then, something worse. A human cadet raised a hand and spoke calmly to the group around him. Irix couldn't hear the words, but he didn't need to. The group nodded and kept moving. Irix's heart slammed hard against his chest. They didn't disobey, he whispered. They decided. Alarms activated across the base. Red lights flashed. Automated announcements repeated the stand-down order. This time, more units stopped. But not all. In the simulation dome, a mixed species unit was still active. The door seals were locked for safety. Inside, the final combat drill was running. Irix cursed under his breath and rushed toward the dome. Inside, chaos and brilliance collided. The simulated battlefield had changed. Terrain had been reshaped. Defensive lines had dissolved. Cadets moved freely, adapting to threats in real time. Humans coordinated without speaking much. They trusted instinct. They trusted each other. Alien cadets followed. Not because they were ordered, because it worked. The simulation system struggled to keep up. Enemy AI collapsed faster than expected. Objectives were taken out of sequence. Victory conditions triggered. Early, then the system froze. Lights flickered. An alarm blared inside the dome. Irix burst inside, just as the shields powered down. "Stop!" he shouted. "Everyone, stop now!" Cadets froze. For the first time, they truly stopped. They turned toward him. Humans. Aliens. Exhausted. Injured. Alive with energy. One alien cadet stepped forward. "Sir," she said carefully, "we were winning." Irix stared at them. Winning, that word should have meant success. Instead, it felt like failure. "You were ordered to stop?" Irix said. A human cadet spoke up, respectful but confused. "Sir, why?" That question struck harder than defiance ever could. Why? Irix had no answer that made sense anymore. Medical teams rushed in, pulling cadets aside. Injuries were worse than expected. Broken bones. Internal stress damage. Muscles pushed beyond biological limits. Humans recovered quickly. Aliens did not. That was the line. That was the proof. Later that night, the High Marshal arrived in person. He walked through the base in silence, observing everything. The exhausted cadets. The overwhelmed instructors. The damage reports. Finally, he stood beside Irix in the command room. "I warned you," the High Marshal said quietly. "Yes, sir," Irix replied. The High Marshal watched footage of the simulation replaying. On the screen, "They didn't just train," he said. "They changed the rules." Irix swallowed. "They made the others believe they could do more." The High Marshal nodded slowly. "That belief is dangerous," he said. "It spreads faster than weapons. Faster than orders." He turned to Irex. Humans. Make others forget fear. The silence between them was heavy. What happens now? Irex asked. The High Marshal's eyes hardened. The experiment ends, he said. Immediately. And the humans? They will be removed from mixed training, the High Marshal said. Transferred. Quietly, Irex hesitated. And the others? He asked. The ones who trained with them? The High Marshal did not answer right away. Finally, he said, they will never be the same. Irex watched the training grounds one last time. Alien cadets stood straighter now. Their eyes sharper, their confidence higher. They had tasted something. New freedom. Trust. Risk. You could not erase that. The High Marshal moved toward the exit. Commander, he said without turning back, remember this. Irex waited. We did not separate humans because they are weak. The doors paused. We separated them because they are contagious. The doors closed. Commander Irex Val stood alone, realizing the truth too late. The galaxy had trained humans before, but this time, humans had trained the galaxy. The humans were removed at dawn. No speeches, no announcements, no explanations. They were escorted in small groups, quietly transferred to human-only facilities beyond the core training worlds. Official records listed it as a routine reassignment. Unofficially, everyone knew. The experiment had scared the command. Commander Irex Val watched the last transport lift off from the base. The engines burned clean and bright. Against the morning sky, it felt wrong. The base was quieter after that. 2 quiet instructors. Noticed at first. Alien cadets still followed orders. Still trained. Still performed well. But something was missing and something else had appeared. They questioned tactics now. They adapted mid-exercise without waiting for approval. They covered for each other without being told. They failed, learned, adjusted, and tried again. Human habits. Command tried to correct it. Drills became stricter. Punishments harsher. Creativity discouraged. Individual initiative labeled reckless deviation. But it didn't work. You couldn't punish away understanding in one live-fire exercise. A Valorian squad broke formation to save a wounded teammate instead of holding position as ordered. They succeeded. The mission was completed faster. Command issued reprimands. Quietly, other squads copied them. Reports flooded in from other academies across the sector. Different planets? Different species, same problem. Human-trained cadets were outperforming expectations and ignoring doctrine when doctrine failed. The High Marshal convened an emergency council. Human contamination, read the internal briefing. It wasn't fear-mongering, it was accurate. Humans didn't spread disease, they spread ideas. That was worse at a remote human facility. The reassigned cadets trained as normal. They joked. They complained. They pushed each other too hard and laughed afterward. They didn't know what they had started. One human instructor reviewed footage from alien academies and went very quiet. They're using our methods, she said softly. A fellow officer frowned. We didn't teach them that. She paused the screen. Yes, she said. We did. Back at the original base, Commander Irex Val faced his final evaluation. The High Marshal stood across from him. You failed to contain the experiment? The High Marshal said calmly. Yes, sir, Irex replied. Do you understand why? Irex hesitated, then he said, because humans don't follow systems. They build people. The High Marshal studied him. They don't just build people, he corrected. They change how others see themselves. Irex took a breath. They didn't. Corrupt discipline, he said. They made it personal. Silence followed. That was not an excuse. It was worse because it was true. The council voted that. Same day, humans would be officially classified as high-influence species. Mixed training programs were suspended across the galaxy. Any non-human cadet who trained under humans would be flagged for psychological deviation. Reconditioning programs were planned. Memory softening. Behavior correction. Irex read the order twice. His hands trembled. That night, he walked the barracks alone. He passed rooms where alien cadets lay awake, staring at the ceiling. They had learned too much. One cadet sat up when she saw him. "Commander," she asked quietly, "why can't we train like that anymore?" Irex opened his mouth, closed it. There was no lie gentle enough. Because, he finally said, the galaxy is afraid of what you might become. She nodded slowly. "I felt stronger," she said. "Not my body. My choices." Those words followed him long after he left. The next morning, something unexpected happened. A transmission arrived from the frontier, an unclassified threat, an unknown, fleet-fast, aggressive, unresponsive. 3 outposts lost in hours. Standard doctrine failed. Fleet formations collapsed. Command issued retreat orders. They were ignored. Instead, mixed cruise humans and alien veterans who had trained together in secret did something unthinkable. They fought without permission. They broke formation. They adapted. They won. Footage reached the council. Chambers' human tactics. Alien courage shared. Instinct. The room went silent. The High Marshal watched the battle. Replay in slow motion. Ships moving like living things. Crews trusting each other without rank, without fear, without waiting. Someone whispered the truth. No one wanted to say we need them. The High Marshal closed his eyes. The galaxy had tried to lock the door, but humans had already taught everyone how to open it. And once opened, it could never be closed again. The galaxy did not vote. It never had time to. The unknown fleet struck again. This time, it did not hit frontier outposts. It went straight for a core world. Billions lived there. Automated defenses activated first. They failed. Fleet command deployed. 3 battle groups under standard doctrine. They were crushed in 40 minutes. Perfect formations. Perfect timing. Perfectly predictable. Panic spread across the council chambers, admirals shouted. Strategists argued. Doctrines were rewritten in real time. None of it mattered. The enemy adapted faster. They learned from every move. By the time the 4th Fleet launched, the enemy already knew how it would fight. That was when Commander Irex Val broke protocol. He transmitted one message, a short one. Release the humans. The High Marshal hesitated. Only for a second. Then he nodded. Do it. Every human facility received the signal at the same time. Training halted. Simulation rooms went dark. Instructors turned to their cadets. This is not an exercise, they said. Do what you were taught. Humans didn't cheer. They didn't salute. They just moved. Alien veterans who had trained with them stepped forward. No. Orders were given. Teams formed naturally. Pilots chose co-pilots they trusted. Gunners picked spotters they had trained beside. Ranks? Dissolved function remained. The combined fleet did not launch in formation. It scattered. Command screamed in protest. Then, the battle began. Human ships didn't fly straight. They cut engines to disappear from sensors. They overloaded reactors for short bursts that should have torn hulls apart. Alien pilots copied them. No hesitation? No fear. The enemy hesitated. That was new. Boarding actions followed. Not clean, not elegant humans led the way, not because they were strongest, because they moved first. Corridors filled with smoke. Alarms. Broken gravity. Alien soldiers followed humans into chaos and survived. They adapted. They stopped waiting for orders. They watched each other's backs. They learned fast. The enemy fleet began to fracture. They had planned for structure. They had prepared for obedience. They were not prepared for trust. One enemy commander broadcast a message across all channels. You fight without control. A human captain answered calmly. We fight with it. The battle ended 12 hours later. The enemy fleet was destroyed. Not routed, not forced to retreat. Gone. The cost was high. But the core world lived. Silence filled the council chamber. No cheering, no celebration, just truth. The High Marshal stood. For centuries, he said, we believed humans were untrainable by us. He looked around the room. We were wrong. The screen behind him lit up with casualty data. Mixed crews had the highest survival rate. Human-led teams adapted fastest. Alien cadets exposed to humans showed increased resilience, problem-solving, and loyalty. The conclusion was unavoidable. Humans were not chaos, they were catalysts. The council issued a final ruling. Humans would no longer be restricted. They would not be isolated. They would not be controlled. Instead, a new doctrine was written. One single line. Humans do not break systems. They reveal which ones were never strong enough. Commander HFY was cleared of all charges. He declined promotion. Instead, he requested reassignment to the first official Mixed Species Academy. The High Marshal approved it. With a warning. You won't be able to control them. HFY smiled. Faintly. That's the point. Years later, cadets would tell stories about the war that rewrote doctrine, about the humans who laughed under fire, about how the galaxy learned a dangerous truth. Not every weapon is built of steel. Some are built of belief, and once humans fight beside you, you are never the same again.